The showdown in the Court of Appeals. Both sides are battling out over the president's travel moratorium. And it might not end there. Whispers of a potential Supreme Court smackdown escalating today after the president acknowledged that possibility. We all know he's plays to win, but what if he loses? What if this goes all the way and it does not work out for the president of the United States? Here to discuss, DeRoy Murdoch, Josh Blackman, and Ron Christie. DeRoy, let me start with you. I mean, you know, there's a long way to go and there's a lot of ifs to this, but considering the current composition of the Supreme Court, 4-4 tie, not out of the realm of possibility going back to Judge Robarts, and we know how he feels about this.
I think it could go to the Supreme Court because you have these differences of opinions among various judges. But I think the statute on this is incredibly clear. The McCarran-Walter Act of 1952 gives almost absolute authority to the President of the United States to determine which aliens or classes of aliens can or cannot enter the United States. He can do so by proclamation and ban them for whatever period of time he thinks is in the national interest. It's entirely unambiguous. And I know people say, oh, this is dictatorial, authoritarian, unconstitutional. But if you go back and look at that statute on which this entire executive order is based, it's very clear the president has this power. And I think even liberal judges like Kagan and Ginsburg would have to look at that.
Well, President, though, we know that other presidents have taken similar actions, but none as broad in scope.
I don't think this is all that broad. This is not a ban on all Muslims staying out of America forever. This is 7 countries. This executive order expires April 28th, and it's just a matter of determining what vetting criteria will be used to determine if these people are legitimate refugees or if they're kind of people like this Somali refugee in Ohio who took his car, drove over a bunch of students, and then got a knife out and tried to kill them, injured 11 people before he was shot by a cop. So yes, there are very good refugees who come here who want to work hard and join the American dream, and there's some here who don't, and this is all about trying to identify which ones should be here and which ones should not.
Yeah, Josh, in the current state of the world where these terror attacks have become so commonplace, I don't know that we're not sanguine about them, but we certainly don't flinch to the degree that we did. It would make sense to have better vetting, and yet the legal battle continues right now as we speak.
Yeah, in fact, as I was coming on this segment, I was listening to the hearing in the Ninth Circuit in California, and it's not looking good for the Trump administration. All 3 judges on the panel seem very skeptical of the government's argument. So if I had to make a prediction now, it does not look like the court will rule in favor of President Trump.
Josh, what were those arguments?
So the biggest argument that they've raised is that the president hasn't actually provided any evidence in the record that the immigrants from these 7 countries in fact pose a risk. The government lawyer said, well, we have some arrests here and there, and the judges were very skeptical of that and said, we don't think that's enough, and they actually wanted to have a relationship shown of why these people in particular should be excluded from the United States.
You know, Ron, this is an interesting situation because no matter where this ultimately ends up, it feels like the longer it goes out, the more we talk about it, President Trump will win in a court of public opinion because of the nature of how civilization has changed in the Western world.
Well, good evening, Charles. I think not only will he win in the court of public opinion, but I think he's going to win ultimately in the court of law. You know, this is one of the first things I took as a first-year law student in constitutional law. In order to bring a suit, you must have standing. I do not believe that the state of Washington has standing in this particular case. They talk about the aggrieved economic impact for businesses such as Microsoft in their state that has absolutely no legal rational basis. And most importantly, as Commander-in-Chief in our Constitution, all the President has to do is have a rational basis to exclude aliens, to exclude refugees who do not have legal status here. That's it. So to suggest that he's not going to win or he's doing something against Muslims, he's doing it under the Constitution, and the state of Washington has no legal basis, in my opinion, for which they brought forth this lawsuit in the first place. You know,
DeRoy, I hear all the experts, and I hear where everyone's coming from, but deja vu takes me back to the Obamacare Supreme Court ruling and Chief Justice Roberts going completely against what everyone thought how he would rule. So, you know, I mean, I get where everyone's coming from, and yet Josh said he's listening to this, and it feels like all 3 members of this panel are leaning against the Trump administration. Why? I mean, have the courts become this politicized?
I think that we're living in an era now where people on the left side of the political spectrum are just in I don't even know what word to use, catatonic about Trump's existence there. And I hope that these judges actually can put aside whatever their political views are and rule on the basis of the facts, the law, and the statute, which I described earlier. Or they may just decide, you know what, we just hate Trump, we got to stop him, and the hell with all that, let's just knock this guy onto the ground. And if that's the case, then he's in trouble. But if they actually behave the way judges should behave, I think the fact that the statute is so clear about him having this authority, he should survive this.
I guess if we listen closely, we could hear the fabric of the republic being pulled apart. Guys, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.